Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're tuning in. I'm your host, Hassan, and this is another episode of Present Potential. I'm so grateful for all the connections and requests and messages and people engaging and downloading the episodes and listening to our conversations, the ones that we've had with our incredible guests, and also some of which where I am on the episode solo, which is what I'm doing today. So, a huge thank you to all of you. And I've been thinking about what I wanted to share with you during today's episode. And one of the things that has come to mind is about communication. I've recently done a communications workshop, which was very fascinating. It's a bit biased to say that, but it helped me understand how to communicate and deliver messages more clearly. And with that, I started thinking about what it is about communication that is so important. And it tied back down to the importance of language and how we communicate with one another, being so specific in the words that we use and how we understand what other people are saying, whether it is something that we can relate to or something completely that we're unaware of. So I've decided to talk about neuro-linguistic programming in this episode. I'm going to start by defining what neuro-linguistic programming is, but I'm not just going to use the definition that you can find by searching on Google. I'm going to give you my own definition, and I'll explain why I thought that this was going to be an interesting topic to discuss. And then we're going to be talking about some of the beliefs of excellence within NLP. NLP being neuro-linguistic programming, but it's easier to say, and what those beliefs mean from my point of view. And I'm also going to share stories about those beliefs that actually might help to transfer the communication or the understanding so that we could use them in our daily lives and also more especially in the corporate world. So let's start by saying or describing what NLP is. From my point of view, and as an NLP practitioner, I see NLP as a tool that we can use to understand language, to recognize certain types of behaviors and patterns within ourselves and others so that we can make more informed decisions after developing significant awareness. Now, that might sound like a long worded answer, but basically, what it means is noticing our own patterns and others' patterns as well so that we can communicate more effectively. Now, what do I mean by patterns or behaviors? The way that we operate as people, from my understanding as well, in terms of what I've come across, is that we tend to default to a certain type of pattern, meaning that some of us are more visual. So we like to see things. And usually we would say, oh, yeah, I can see this in the future. Or I can imagine this taking place. Or I want to create this amazing house that has a living room that's different colors and the curtains are different shades of blue and white. That's more visual. And that's kind of one of the patterns that we would project. Others, such as if we are going to speak about big chunks or small chunks, meaning if I were to tell you, I come from the Middle East, or if I say, I come from Yemen, Sana'a, the capital specifically. Now, the first example was a big chunk because I just told you the area, the region that I come from. But when I was specifying the city, that's more small chunks. So we become more specific and we get to experience these things based on our own filters. Now, our filters enable us to understand what our experiences are as we grow up. So, when I was growing up, I had certain types of experiences that were completely different than anyone else. Not because I am special, because they are my own experiences. The way that I was raised, the environment, the tradition, the society, my own emotions as I was growing up. And this is the same for all of us. And it's the beliefs that we create when we're growing up that enable us to be able to perform as we are when we are older. So I'm not going to go very detailed into the experiences and the filters that go with NLP, but rather I'd like to share some of the beliefs of excellence that I really find transformative because they've helped me understand myself better and develop more awareness so that I can become a more impactful person in my own life and also to help my clients as a high performance coach. So, with all of that introduction being made, this is a live. So, I am discussing from just my mind and my heart and opening my experiences and knowledge and takeaways from NLP with you. And if you are following or listening, feel free to send a chat. Or if you have a question that you want me to expand on, feel free to also message because the more we get to experience the communication together, the more impactful it is. So, the beliefs of excellence, and these are mainly what have come together based on the founders of NLP, which were two amazing individuals who interviewed so many people and developed certain types of models or patterns that they can reflect. And what they've noticed is that there's certain behaviors in people and also certain conditions and beliefs that drive us all to excel, to become the best versions of ourselves. Now, the founders of NLP are, I think, Roger Findler. I'm just going to search it very quickly. Richard Bandler, sorry, Bandler, and along with John Grinder. So I kind of mix up those names, but both of them have been the founders of NLP. And let's go straight into what the beliefs of excellence is. I'm going to share maybe three or four with you. There's around 12 that we've covered, 12 or 13, depending on the kind of training that you've gone through. But I'm going to share some that really stood out for me. The first one is, let me find it so I can show you also on the screen. So the first one is each person is unique. The map is not the territory. Each person is unique. The map is not the territory. When I first read this, it was a little bit confusing for me because I didn't understand the second part. Now, I understood what each person is unique, but the map is not the territory. Wasn't really sure what that is. So each person is unique. We're all special. We're all unique in our own ways. Or as people say, we're all special, just like everybody else. But it's the map is not the territory part that is important. And I'd like to share a story here to try to emphasize or to make a clearer distinction of what that means. Imagine working in a company or an environment where after COVID, everyone has been working remotely. And then suddenly the leaders decided to ask everyone to go back to work in the office. So that's a big difference, working remotely and then going back to the office. And this is part of like the communication that is taking place these days as well. Now, some people would, instead of me saying some people, I would say my own experiences. When I was working in the corporate world and when COVID started and everyone was working from home, I actually enjoyed working from home. I was more effective, I was efficient, I was able to focus, but I also lost the element of team communication. Now, once COVID was okay and people can go back to the offices, we were invited to go back, but we still had a hybrid approach. Some companies have a you have to work from the office point of view. Now, the people who share that it is important to work from the office might be operating from a stance of their own map of the world, from their own territory, from how they perceive the world. And it could be for different scenarios or different reasons. Now, what I'm sharing is not to create excuses or reasons why to work from the office or why not to work from the office, but trying to explain the reason behind the difference between of the map is not the territory. So some people, let's say, if they have a new office and they want their employees to work together to come up with different ideas and to collaborate more effectively, they might say that it's enforceable to go to the office. Now, the way that they communicate it might not be the best way for us to hear, but from their point of view, they might be seeing that there is more collaboration, more support, more engagement for people to go back to the office. Now, it could be the other side. The people who have been asked to go back to the office might think that they don't trust me anymore. I don't have the flexibility to go to the office. I don't like to commute in the morning. So we all have different types of experiences. And each of those is not right or wrong. It's just our own experiences and our own perspectives of what is taking place. So that is what is perceived as the map is not the territory. Another example is when I was growing up, I used to go play football in the streets, and I used to love it. And it was an asphalt road, so really not very friendly on our feet, but it was what we loved to play. And it was in the neighborhood, and it was with neighborhood friends as well. And the street was about 8 meters wide, and rarely cars passed by. But I remember very clearly, like there were different houses there, and there was one house with a big gate. The gate was white with black stripes, and there used to always be three dogs sleeping in front of this gate. Every time we used to pass by, I used to feel so worried that these dogs might jump and attack me or chase me. And actually, they did. One or two times, they chased me. And I ran as fast as I can to try to get away and save my life from these dogs trying to bite me. It's only about like 10 meters away from where this house is to where we used to play. So we have to cross that path. Luckily, they never bit me. But that experience kind of shaped the way that I see dogs. The way I see dogs sometimes is I have a sense of fear that they might attack me because of that distinct experience that I went through. Now, I'm not saying that all dogs are going to attack or run or bite us, but I'm generalizing that for all dogs. And that might be different for someone who grew up seeing that dogs were always part of the house and were comforting and supportive and nurturing animals and give love like no other type of animal, I hear. So they might see dogs in a different type of perspective. That's what is meant by the map is not the territory. So it depends on our filter, on our own experiences that determine what happens there. The second type of belief that I want to share with you is about communication, because communication is really close to my heart and I love communication and language as well. And it's something that I speak closely and pay very close attention to what words I choose to share. So the second belief is the meaning of communication is the effect in the response you get. So what does that mean? The meaning of communication is the effect in the response you get. Now, communication isn't only about what we say. That's just words. Communication can be anything. It could be symbols, it could be art, it could be music, it could be no words. It could just be a facial expression. Emojis can be communication. So communication is such a diverse word that we use to communicate with one another. Now, the responses that we get from our communication are what matter. Let me share an example of what I mean here and a personal story as well. Something that's been happening recently, and it involves my daughter. So yesterday night, when we were preparing our daughters for bed and eventually having dinner and walking to the bedroom and starting our bedtime routine, I usually prepared the milk for my daughters to drink before they sleep. Now I have two daughters. One is 5.5 and one is 3.5. The 3.5 still drinks from a bottle. The older one drinks from a cup and a straw. And so I handed the milk bottles to both of my daughters. They were lying down and drinking the milk. And I wanted to kiss my eldest daughter on the forehead to tell her good night and that I love her. And when I was doing that, I kind of bumped into the milk bottle and the straw scratched her gum. And she was so upset with me that she just got up and ran out of the bedroom to go to her mother to complain about what daddy has done. Now, I kind of understood that that was the reason why she got up, but I didn't understand why she didn't want to talk to me about that. So I went to to the living room where my daughter was speaking to my wife and telling her that I hit her and that I pushed the straw into her mouth. And I felt very disappointed. I wasn't angry. And I'll tell you why I chose the word angry as well. I was disappointed because I told my daughter I would never do anything to hurt you. I love you so much. My wife and my daughter then went to the bedroom. And I went and I sat on the couch thinking that she doesn't love me and she doesn't see how much I love her. And when I was going through my phone, just scrolling to see different clips, as we sometimes might do, I can see from the corner of my eye my daughter glancing at me from the kitchen, which is next to the living room. And I saw her and I was like, "Oh, what are you looking for, sweetie?" And she said, "Oh, nothing. I'm just playing." And she ran away. And then she came back and she's like, "I'm just seeing what you're doing." And I told her, "Well, why don't you come here and I'll show you and I'd love to hug you and kiss you." And she came to me and we invest a lot of time in communicating with our daughters. So she sat with me and she said, "I felt that you hurt me when you pushed the straw in my mouth, and I thought that you're angry with me." And I reassured her that I had no anger and I was feeling completely peaceful and in a very loving mood. And I expressed my love to her and I told her, "I love you so much. I would never do anything like that. And I'm sorry." Now, the reason I'm sharing this story with you is because the way that communication took place in this example was my daughter felt that I didn't love her and that I did something to hurt her. While on the other hand, I felt that my daughter doesn't love me and she doesn't really care about me. Now, all of these things were not really expressed or shared in language. It was just the expressions, the actions, and the behaviors that we took. So it was in the responses that we were getting that we saw what the communication is. Now, this is also very essential because it's so important to distinguish how we can communicate with one another so that it's so clear what we mean in our actions. Take, for example, in the office. If we are to say, and I've experienced this, and I've also understood like the reason why it's so important to be so clear. When we address our colleagues and we say, and our colleagues are both male and female, and we say, "Hey guys, can we do this?" Now, guys sometimes can be seen as it's only towards male. So people or female or girls or women or ladies might feel offended because, especially if a man says guys, there might be like a misconception under that word. So instead of saying guys, it's so important to understand what kind of communication we are expressing to one another. So that's my take on the second belief of excellence. And this brings us to the third, which is, let me present it on the screen so you could also follow me when I am sharing it. The third belief of excellence is we have within us all the resources we ever need. We have within us all the resources. When I came across this belief of excellence, I felt a certain type of relief. I felt that I have all the resources already within me from the moment that I was born, that I don't need to push myself or force myself to acquire any additional resources to do things that matter. Now, let's break it down a little bit because it's so important to understand what is meant by this belief. I'm going to share another story with you here about the resources that we have within us. For the past few years, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years, I've been writing a book and I'm not an author or a great writer. See, that's my perception. That's my map of the world. Someone else might think that I am a great writer, but I don't consider myself to be a great writer. And a few years ago, I decided to write a story. And the purpose of the book was to highlight the distinction between fear and love. It's a fictional story, and there's going to be more about this when the time comes. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I didn't know that I'm able to sit and write 262 A4 pages of imagination, of a story that I just created. I don't know that resource was so powerful, and it was always within me. And having that belief that I am able to write, I am able to learn how to write, I am able to have the courage to sit down with my screen, with the blinking cursor, and start typing my story, regardless if it was good or bad. Now, as the time went on, I started to notice what is important to share about this story. I started reading more about how to write stories, what makes each chapter distinctive, how can I bring more characters into life. I also then took it a step further and I asked close friends and associates to review the first draft. So I had people to actually give me their feedback. And that was also from my own resources of asking for help. I was not going to be able to bring it up to this speed or this state without knowing that I am able to do that. And I took it a step further and now I printed it. And I've actually created different chapters, sections, and also notes where I'm going to go through it to understand what I can do to improve the story. Now, I don't know where all of that came from, but it came from somewhere. And it's all about our perception and filters that we gain throughout our experiences. And the reason I'm sharing this is because having that belief of knowing we have all the resources, we are able to find the courage, the ability to be able to create anything that we want. If we don't have the skills or knowledge, then we have the courage to actually ask for help, look for solutions, go out of our way to ask people how they've done it before, because most likely someone has already done that before. And in my case with this book, certainly they have. So that brings us to the three beliefs of excellence that I wanted to share. I think I'll share one more because I was aiming to have a 30-minute discussion. And the last one that I want to share with you really resonated with me immediately as soon as I started reading it when I was going through these beliefs of excellence. The last one that I want to share with you today is there is a solution to every problem. There's a solution to every problem. Just reading that and saying it out loud really gives me strength to understand that any problem that we might face, there is a way to find solutions for it. And it could be about anything. Now, it's so important to break it down even further to understand what we mean by problem and what we mean by solution. Doesn't necessarily mean that if the problem, let's say I have a toothache, that's a problem. The solution might not be to extract that tooth or to go to the dentist. The solution might be to understand what created that problem, what created that toothache. That's a solution to the problem. And it's that process of going through it. I'm going to share with you a very quick story about a problem that I went through while I'm building my business as well. I provide one on one high performance coaching, mainly one on one online. And I use Zoom and I use Google Meet. And I noticed that a lot of my clients were also using Microsoft Teams. So I took it upon me to invest in Microsoft to be able to offer them Teams so that it's so easy for everyone to connect with me and have the sessions based on their preference and requirements. So I created a Microsoft Teams account and I started experimenting to try to connect all the applications that I have so it's so seamless for people to just click and book sessions with me. The problem was I didn't know how to connect my calendar to the booking system. And that was a problem for me because what's the point of having this solution if I'm not able to connect the calendar? Long story short, I took it within me. I used all the resources that I have and also listened to what people wanted to create this solution. So I started reading how I can create it. I contacted Microsoft. I went on ChatGPT to give me insights. I went to read on forums. I Googled. The process took me around 6 hours because I was on my own and didn't have anybody to help. And if I wanted somebody to help, I would have had to invest or go to them or spend time. So I did it on my own. But I found the solution and I was so happy with myself that I connected Microsoft Teams to my calendar. Now it's so easy for anyone that wants to connect with me. They can just click on the link and they're able to have a call through Zoom, Google Meet, or Microsoft Teams. I kind of became a programmer. Well, I wouldn't say a programmer, but I increased my level of tech skills during that process of resolving that problem, which I'm grateful for because it helps me to realize the resourcefulness within me, the dedication, the commitment, the way that I noticed my clients wanted to use Microsoft Teams, and I created that. So, these are some of the beliefs of excellence that I've come across in NLP, and I thought it was worthwhile to share them with you. There are many other NLP beliefs of excellence, models, techniques, skills that I've come across which have been impactful for me and also for my clients. And it's a way for us to develop more awareness, to become the version of the person that we believe we are, to rediscover our strengths and to be able to serve more impactfully. And that's why I continue to invest in myself. And I'm actually going through a master practitioner program at the moment to learn more skills, to develop my knowledge, because I have all the resources. And it's just finding the ways and the skills and the ability to bring them out, to see them, to realize them. And if I can leave you with one thing about what NLP has taught me, and one of my biggest takeaways is it's the reflections that we see. What we see in others reflect what we have within us. We mirror others by what we see in us. If we see excellence in others, then there is excellence within us. If we see beauty in the world, then there is beauty within us. And it's the same if we look at it the other way. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was valuable, insightful, helpful to understand just a little bit about what NLP is and also the beliefs of excellence, which can be applied to different scenarios in our personal and professional life. Until next time, we'll speak soon. And today is the most important day of your life. Thank you.